One example comes from several reports of transgender drivers being kicked off of Uber accounts because when they used a fraud detection system, which uses facial recognition to see if you are who you say you are, given that they present differently, there were more checks required. So one driver reported that over an 18-month period, she actually had to undergo 100 different checks, and then eventually her account was deactivated. On May 20th, another Uber driver actually sued Uber for more than $200,000 after having his account deactivated because he had to lighten his photos so that his face could be seen by these systems. And then there was no kind of recourse, no due process in that he couldn't even reach out to say the reason I lightened my photo, right, was because the system wasn't detecting.
Was failing.
Yeah.
And so also in my district, and this is to the panel, again, I've seen our community colleges and polytechnical schools engaging in conversations with businesses about how they can best train workers to meet the new challenges of the AI workforce and provide them with the skills. Structurally, how does secondary education need to adjust to be able to adapt to the changing needs and the changing challenges that you're outlining? How can we better prepare students to enter into this workforce?
I'll just do a very quick point. We do not have the data to say how AI will affect the economy. We have strong intuitions from everyone who works in AI that it will affect the economy dramatically. And I'd say before we think about what we need to teach children, we need a real study of how it's impacting things. None of us are able to give you a number on employment.
And just because I have 6 seconds, what would you suggest to us to focus on in that study?
I think it would be useful to look at the tractability for in-development technologies to be applied at large scale throughout the economy, and to look at the economic impacts of existing things like how we've automated visual analysis and what economic impacts that has had. Because it's been dramatic, but we don't have the data from which to talk about it.
Thank you. I yield back. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our panel for being here today on this very important topic. Mr. Clark, I want to start my line of questioning with you. It's my belief that the United States needs to lead on machine learning and AI, if for no other reason, for the sake of standards development, especially when you think about the economic race between ourselves and China. One, I guess, first question, do you share that concern? And then two, if yes, what concerns would you have in a world where China is the one that is sort of leading the AI evolution, if you will, and dictating standards globally?
Yes, I agree. And to answer your second question, I think if you don't define the standard, then you have less ability to figure out how the standard's going to change your economy and how you can change industry around it. So it just puts you behind the curve. It means that your economic advantage is going to be less, you're going to be less well-oriented in the space. And if you don't invest in the people to go and make those standards, then you're going to have lots of highly qualified, reasonable people from China making those. And they'll develop skills, and then we won't get to make them.
Thank you. And then Dr. Taurasi, another question that I have is around data ownership and data privacy. We talk about the promise of AI a lot, and it is certainly there. I don't know that we talk enough about how to empower individuals with control over their data, who are ultimately the ones providing the value without even choosing to provide all this data. So in your opinion, how should we at the committee level and as a Congress think about balancing that trade-off between data privacy and ownership for the individual and the innovation that we know is coming?
This is actually an excellent question and fundamental in healthcare space. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, all the AI algorithmic advances that are happening wouldn't be possible if the patients did not contribute their data and if the healthcare providers did not provide the services that collect the data. So in the end, who owns the product? This is a conversation that requires as a society to have these pointed conversations about these issues and to bring all the different stakeholders into place. Privacy and ownership mean different things to different people. One size will not fit all. We need to have to build a framework in place so that we can address these questions per application domain, per situation that arises.
Thank you. And sort of, this one's maybe for everybody. Sort of a take on that. Deepfakes is something that we've been hearing a little bit more of lately, and I think the risk here is profound, where we get into a world where you literally cannot tell the difference between me calling you on the phone physically or a machine producing my voice. So as we think about that, I guess my question would be,